Hello, and welcome to Let's Drone Out. This is episode 412, and you are joined this week by everybody's favourite, Curry Kitten.
Hello.
And myself, Stephen. Jack is not able to be with us this week, but hello, Jack. Hope you're doing all right there. Catch you soon. So, he's pulled his own earphone connection out. This isn't going to help. Please fill the air.
Stephen said, I'll wear these headphones because it has a big stretchy lead and immediately pulls it out of his head without doing anything.
Now I've just discovered.
Good news is Stephen has apparently been building stuff where you can talk about because I haven't been doing anything because I've been away. How's that? Is that better? Is it working?
It is only on one channel though. Clunk click. That should be better. Yeah, I've had a string of builds that I intended to do, and then I went to Croatia and smashed things. So now I've got an even longer string of builds. So with a little whistle wetting, we shall begin. So for a while I've wanted to try O3. And finally, I created a little O3 quad.
In my mind, you already had an O3 on something else.
I've had an O3 for a long time. It's been sitting on my bench glaring at me. And because it's such a high value item, I've kind of been hoarding it and I didn't know what to do. So I built this 3.5 inch with these Avan props and nice looking motors that are actually incredibly cheap. And you see the O3 is kind of jammed in the middle there. It's kind of unusually placed right in the middle on top of the stack.
And I can't even see a stack.
Black,
it just looks like completely O3.
Yeah. That is in essence the problem, Wayne, that this is so much O3 and so little room for the stack that the first time I took it out, it was just like Mr. Wobble cupped up and the O3 was touching the stack. And so installing the O3 is not like installing other video systems because for reasons best known to DJI and their, I think it's fair to say, contempt for their customer base, instead of using M2 screws, they decided to use M1.6. Why? You might ask. This is a high-value piece of equipment. You probably want it secured with a nice stout screw, at least an M2, probably an M3, given these are £200 a pop here in the UK. But no, what we've got is M1.6. So it took quite a while to order the necessary screws to actually do it this way, because I'm running M1.6 from the bottom of the frame through the flight controller, which is an all-in-one, through a lot of rubber into the O3, and there wasn't enough screw, and it was clamped down tight onto the flight controller, which meant that the flight controller wasn't isolated, and it just got too much noise and did the woo. And normally when you get a little woo, it's pretty obvious you've overtuned it usually, or something is wobbling that shouldn't be wobbling, but it all looked firmly braced in place. And only on closer inspection did I notice that after putting the top plate on, I ended up crunching the O3 down onto the flight controller, and it was not happy about that. So eventually I ordered some even longer screws, which being M1.6 were an absolute pain to find and took ages to arrive. And finally got it so it's flying sort of okay, but oh my word, the trials and tribulations of building your own. I see why people go bind and flies, I really do. Like, I wanted a kind of quite exactly the way I'd like it, but I paid for it this time, I really did.
Have you considered going like bigger frame so you could put the O3 behind the stack?
That was my first inclination. I was going to put it on a 5-inch. And then I realized I fly my 5-inch probably... I mean, I flew a lot of packs in Croatia, but the number of separate times I go flying with a 5-inch each year are kind of in single digits. I could fly this near my house, sub 250 with a small enough battery. Whereas I can't fly the 5-inch near my house. So the 5-inch...
This is the problem of living in London town.
Doesn't go out. Yeah, pretty much. Flying the 5-inch is nice. You know, you get that. You can throw it over things. You can go pretty fast, and they're easier to tune. And software like Betaflight, which I participate pretty actively in, is set up with a 5-inch in mind. When you build something like this, you have to work hard because you don't get that performance as table stakes. Like, you can build a bad 5-inch, put Betaflight on it, and it's going to fly okay. you build a 3.5 inch pretty well, and it might fly like trash out of the box, and you really need to work. Like the PIDs are up 1.5 and 1.6 on those sliders. That's abnormally high PIDs because it's a little bit of a chunker and it doesn't have enough power. But yeah, I when I was away in Croatia, I replaced my VTXs actually. I'm going to untangle this. So I've got my 5.5 inch AOS frame. I didn't trash this one, but I did manage to do something funky to the gyro and it stopped behaving. But I swapped the cameras from DJI to Walksnail while I was in Croatia. So I've got the Walksnail Pro camera, and I absolutely love flying these. They're absolutely beautiful image quality, and I was flying around in the bright sunlight and then diving into a concrete bando, and it was just wonderful. You get such good low light performance that you don't get that blackout and then surprise. It was handy.
The Pro camera does seem so far better, like miles better than the regular camera.
Why did they release the regular?
That in low light, you can see it sort of go grainy, but that Pro camera is just like it's like using a DSLR in comparison almost. It's very nice.
To my mind, there's two brackets of kind of things worth buying: either the really cheap light stuff with that tiny board camera that's like a decased 14mm camera, or the Pro camera. And the regular cameras in the middle, like, you're not getting a light camera, but you're not getting a great image either. So, no.
Yeah, outside in the sunlight, there's less to choose between them, isn't there? If you've got a nice sunny day, then you'll get a nice experience. But if you're not, which, you know, we're in England, so we always get nice sunny days, clearly. That's when you'll see the difference between them.
Right. I always feel slightly cheated when you see those reviews and they come out and it's from, you know, like California or somewhere sunny in Asia, and it's a beautiful day and they're cruising next to a lake and there's not a cloud in the sky and there's birds and bright green trees, and like, yeah, it's not hard to make that look good. Like, you can take any camera and point it at that, it's going to look pretty good. And then, you know, flying around in the UK, I put up a video trying to fly under some trees, and the ground just turned into this big, muddy kind of impressionist painting. I couldn't see what the heck was going on.
Nice.
What have you been up to?
Nothing at all. I've been in Japan having a holiday, so I have not done anything related to FPV in over 2 weeks.
Comics, video games, cool little robots.
That's literally been my day. I have gone to capsule places, gone to crane grabbing things, bought lots of video games, bought anime figures, eaten some really weird shit, and gone around the country with my best broken Japanese possible. That's about it.
What cool food did you find?
I just find the Japanese diet is so sort of alien to anybody that's used to what we're eating. So even when we thought we knew what we were getting, like if you've ever been to a Japanese restaurant, yakitori sticks is something that comes up, which is basically chicken on a stick, really nice chicken, often in a sort of barbecue-y soy sauce, goes down very nicely. First night in Tokyo, after going around to many places and them saying, do you have a reservation? And I was like, no, there's like 1,000 restaurants. How do we all need a reservation, all of them? And then when we found a restaurant, we couldn't find it because it's either on the 6th floor or on the basement level.
Yeah, so I found that with Hong Kong.
Yeah, the one we eventually hunted down was down the subway and off to the side, and it's this really busy restaurant, and it was yakitori, and we thought, brilliant. And then it's like, oh, this is not yakitori, I think about, because they don't seem to like lean chicken. It's either like weird
bouncy
bits,
food.
like it's chicken skin. That was like a whole thing. It's like, okay, let's try this. Chew, 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 chew. It's not going down. That sort of thing. Or like the lean things were covered in wasabi, which really upset my wife. Or it's like chicken gristle, chicken neck, chicken weird things. And it's like, if you have beef, they often have the beef ligament or beef tendon.
Oh, right.
Instead of like, what's wrong
over
with
here? That's what you give to your dog, isn't it? That's what my dog has.
That's what I call the offcut. So yeah, it was all a bit weird. But you know, we
I
got
noticed
through.
in China they're very fond of like mochi, which is kind of like gelatinous, but not sweet gelatinous, like fatty bits of or exceptionally gelatinous kind of liquid filled savory things that I think to a Western palate feel a little bit kind of like a nasty surprise sometimes. You
There is
expect
that,
something to
and
be biteable and it bounces instead of bites.
when you get a bit that looks like a lean bit of beef, and you bite it, it's like, this tastes funny because it's so fatty. They love their fatty bits. I saw literally a beef
A
sandwich in a
luxury,
shop,
isn't it?
and you could see the beef, and it was surrounded by this whole fat layer all the way
Yeah.
through, and it's like, ooh, yeah.
It's
So it's
luxury.
just very different, very
Yeah,
different, and
different standards.
as we would call it, a bit ooky in many cases. But you know, we
Yeah.
survived.
I remember when I spent some time out in Hong Kong working at a bank there, and one of the guys like completely going crazy on chicken feet over lunch, and they were just, I'd thought they'd be scrawny, but they kind of like cooked them so they absorbed loads of liquid, and they were really plump and just that had that kind of bouncy texture. I think I tried a tiny bit. I was like, no. But he was just shoveling these things away. Fell asleep, completely fell asleep after lunch. Like he was out for the count, stuffed full of chicken feet.
That's it. Every time I speak to somebody in Japan that has really good English, and they say how you find the food, and we say it's quite challenging, and I describe all the things that I found challenging, they're always like, "Those are my favourites." This is literally all
yummy
the best
things
that you're
just
missing.
like Mummy used to cook.
Yeah, exactly.
I
But
found it much easier
yeah.
going to like India and Sri Lanka. Although I did notice, like when I was traveling with Americans, I was quite happy to have like fish for breakfast, and I thought that just kind of made sense to me. Like as a nice breakfast, I'd have a bit of fish and coconut milk or something like that. And but Americans found that really difficult. Like fish for breakfast was just a no for them. I guess in the UK we're used to maybe kippers or a bit of kedgeree or something like that. That's not too unusual.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really eat fish much. I don't mind the odd bit of sashimi. I found the problems there were, when you go to a restaurant, you can have a little bit of this and a little bit of that. Over there, it's like this restaurant just sells yakitori. This restaurant just does sushi.
So
this
like the instant you've walked through the door, you've committed,
curry.
and that's it.
Yeah, so if you're like, I'll have some sushi, please. Here's a plate full of this much tuna and all sorts of weird crap you've never thought of before, or it's someone else. So, yeah, what I don't like is, as weird as it sounds, a very fishy tasting fish. So, like things like tuna and salmon are quite mild. You put them in a bit of soy sauce, it goes down very nicely.
Mackerel,
and then you have mackerel, which we got served, and the traditional Japanese meal. And it's like, let's have a go at this. Oh God, that's so strong. And then my wife's going in this and says, "What's this? Some sort of vegetables?" And it's like, no, they've got eyes. They're looking back at us. It was all these little white fish just looking up at us. It's like, that's not for us.
So you can't go into a fish restaurant and the rest of the family has fish, and you're like, yeah, I'll just get some chicken. That's off the menu effectively.
Yeah, I don't know how vegetarians would cope, because I'm sure if your Japanese is very good, then you can probably find somewhere through it. But if not, even if something looks like it's a vegetable dish, there's some fish in it somewhere. It's tasting fishy.
How did you find the language? Would you rely on Google Translate, or do you start to get to grips with it?
I spent the last months, I learned hiragana and katakana, which are the two phonetic alphabets, so I thought that might be useful. And then literally we got there and all the signs were in kanji, which I hadn't learned. So I knew very basics. The sort of hello. The most complicated thing I did is, in Japanese, ask for no mustard or mayonnaise in a burger, which somehow they understood, which I was quite impressed with.
Well done.
And I also found that, like, although everybody in the world knows like arigato gozaimasu for thank you, which is chorused everywhere, if I just said something like sugoi or daisuke desu about like talking about their food, which means like awesome or I liked it, they would have wet themselves.
Wow.
Like so pleased that I've said something to them, and they understand it.
Saying like 2 words in their language, you go outside that, they're like, he's got it.
Yes, that's it. Yes. So that was fun. What's interesting, I guess, about Japan, and in terms of FPV, because we should bring it vaguely back
Oh, yeah.
to subject, and I didn't find anything obvious in hobby shops there. When I went to Akihabara, which is like the big electronics district in
Oh, yeah.
Tokyo, there was like big electronic shops, so they had like drones there, so DJI stuff. But I think what a lot of people don't realize is outside of the big cities like Tokyo and Osaka, which we went to, in Kyoto, it is a lot of countryside. Is
Quite
very
rural,
mountainous.
yeah.
It takes like less than an hour, and you're in the middle of the country. And because there's so much of it is countryside and mountains, it seems very easy if you wanted to fly there. And where the communities in the real rural places have declined, basically, because people aren't sort of getting married and having families,
Yeah.
there are a
There's
lot
no
of
jobs there.
abandoned buildings to mess about with.
And
if
do you see
you're
anyone
that way
flying there?
inclined. No,
Oh.
nobody at all. I thought I might run across somebody there, but
Yeah, because a nation that's so, famous for its love of technology, you kind of expect there to be people. And I remember seeing, when looking for videos of the most unusual of model RC contraptions, ornithopters, there was always some Japanese guy who's like 65 and he's made hundreds of ornithopters and things like this. I kind of expect that to be part of the culture more, I guess.
I'm sure it's out there somewhere, but I feel the problem in the culture is it's very conformist. Nobody wants to sort of stand out and be different, to the point that, like, famously everybody, like the tube station works really a lot like the London Underground does. You tap a little IC card and go through, and you get on your train. It's very easy to navigate, except that everybody lines up carefully in queues, and it's so sort of polite and everything that nobody does anything to try and offend anybody. And I feel like somebody doing something a bit different like FPV would be seen as quite an outsider. I'm absolutely sure there's
you
people
have to
doing
like start whistling or do something quite minor to be seen as a rebel, because everyone is that kind of in lockstep with each other, socially speaking.
Yes, literally, you would just talk out loud in like talking on the phone in a train is like outsider behavior. But because everybody's so polite, they won't say anything. They're just like
funny,
inwardly sort of like, oh, this is terrible.
Guy,
but not saying anything,
like sitting there ripping off farts.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it would be good to take a quad and just go find some places and have some fun. But it's quite a long way to go.
So on the side they're definitely known for, and you mentioned this, the kind of anime and that kind of geek culture, sci-fi, giant mecha stuff. What was that like?
Well, they've got districts for it. Like in Tokyo, you've got all these different sort of shopping districts with different things happening. It's like Ginza, where we stayed, is kind of a real high-end, like, Gucci and all these label stores and things. And you got Shibuya, which you'll probably notice from that very famous Shibuya Scramble, which is that big crossing that everybody always shows. There's a great big Starbucks, and there's all this zebra going in diagonals. And yeah, the electronics and gaming and anime district in Tokyo is called Akihabara. And then I found there's another one in Osaka called Denden Street, which is much the same. So
still going strong in spite of internet and online selling.
Yeah, there are incredible amounts of the same sort of stores. So we went in. My wife loved this. We had a whole day there, and I was like, she says, "Which stores are we going?" I said, "All of them." And so there's literally stores and stores just selling anime figures and games.
You take an extra suitcase with you?
I did bring quite a few bits back, yeah, but she bought like a Gucci handbag, so she won in value. And
she gets one handbag, and you get assorted hundreds of toys and things, as many as you can cram in.
I mean, we got a lot of casual things because it was quite fun to play the little crane things and try and win stuff. But I only bought three small consoles and like 3-ish games and one anime figure. So it wasn't too bad.
Very restrained.
I thought so. And at night time in these places, the maids come out. You must have heard of the maid cafes.
Well, I saw it in Hong Kong, but there I think it's a really like kind of almost unpleasant divide between the rich and the poor, because the maids are like brought in from other parts of Asia, and they're never like Hong Kong residents. So it's like almost indentured labor, and they can't afford to eat anywhere. So they like sit in green spaces and kind of embroider things and make patchwork, and it's kind of
No, these ones literally
weird.
dress up as maids, and we walked along at night time, and I think I literally, because I filmed it, very, very, very subtly, just walking along, going like this, as like over 100 girls stood along the side of the road, all dressed as maids of some description.
So they were dressed as maids. They weren't actual maids. This was very much
no, it's very much a. I found it a little bit creepy, and
one of those.
All the efforts they said to say this isn't sexual, I was like, yeah, right. They're stopping like 40, 50-year-old something men and saying, come into our cafe, we'll serve you.
Yeah. But, yeah. I've blocked people online for much less.
Yeah.
I'm interested in this, and no, it's not sexual. This character is, in terms of the narrative, is 3,000 years old and just happens to look like a small schoolgirl. No,
there were shops just selling wire. From a geeky electronics point of view, it's like, what gauge wire would you like? What color would you like it in? This man's got reels everywhere. He'll get you wire. There were at least 4 wire shops. It was very good. We like the wire shops as well.
So basically, small businesses in Japan do absolutely great, and it sounds like they just managed to survive and haven't been plowed under by Amazon and eBay and people like that.
It must be. There are, they're obviously, it's quite a tourist area as well. So when you go into like the retro game stores, it's like, oh god, there's 20 copies of me here. That's no fun at all. But there are also like lots of Japanese people, and bizarrely, despite them being very high tech, definitely the most popular thing there is pachinko. We went through so many pachinko parlors, and every single one is full. They've got queues outside, and pachinko, for those who don't know, is literally a game somewhere in between pinball and watching just balls fall down randomly. Apparently there is some skill to it if you get them right, and it's this really weird thing. So pachinko is like a gambling game. You have to win things. If you get more balls coming out than going in, you've won. But it's illegal to gamble. So what happens is you take your balls and you exchange them for a ticket, and then you go round the corner where there's another store where the ticket will exchange for money, and that's
so you do something that looks like gambling, but you can persuade the lawman it's absolutely entirely unrelated to the act of gambling.
Apparently. I don't buy it.
Wonderful. It's like the National Lottery being such a beautiful, uplifting experience for everyone involved. Totally not gambling. Definitely not gambling.
Not gambling. No, at all.
Wonderful. Oh, I was going to say, back to the topic of drones, I've been buying a load of frames. When I was in Croatia and crashing things, I knew I needed to order spares, so I went to CNC Madness and I ordered this funny little thing that is from Quad 66, who's been making these unusual toothpick frames. And I decided that I'd make use of it, and I started to install a new SkyStars board on there with these Sunny Sky 1106 that are quite beefy, and I think it's like a 4mm thick toothpick frame, so it's going to be kind of a fast little ripper. I'm going to put one of the 1S boards on there from Walksnail and see how that goes, and I've got a whole bunch of other things there as well, including a 4-inch frame that I'm going to try building out. I'm quite committed to Walksnail at this point, is the short story. They seem to do just as well as DJI, if not slightly better. So I'm impressed. They're definitely not perfect, and the OSD does flicker sometimes, which apparently happens on 25 megabit and not 50, but I don't know why.
I did notice the flicker. I was just assuming that it occasionally misses like one of the OSD packets or something. So instead of just like, we'll just hold that information there, it just goes away.
Yeah.
And then comes back again.
I think you're right. And it happens with quite alarming regularity. But the picture's good. I seem to get better fine detail than I did with DJI, which is nice. And those 1S boards are so incredibly light. I've been flying this one again and again, and just because it's a 2.5 inch, and it's got an HD digital system in, it's just perfect for flying. You know, it's open props. I'm not stuck with a whoop thing. Weighs kind of, I think, like just under 80 grams, which is with a 3S 450 on there. Flies an absolute dream. It's a lovely little thing. So yeah, they really won me over just having a decent 1S solution and without the sparkles that I was getting on HD0. You know, just I might not be getting the most rock solid latency, but the image is crystal clear.
Yes, I've still got to do my the wing move to my other walk snail VTX I've got.
Speaking of walk snail, I took this guy with the 3.5 inch props and I did my BMFA FPV racing A cert.
So I was watching the chatter. I was out of the country, and my question is, why? What? Obviously, you did it for a reason that it gets you something that you wanted.
Well, I kind of been hating on the BMFA because I didn't really understand what they were doing, and I thought instead of just being a dick about it, I should probably actually try it out and, you know, see what it's all about. And reached out to someone and they were enormously helpful and really nice. And in fact, he suggested that I buy the right membership, and I went and bought the wrong one and paid for an extra 6 months when I didn't need to, which made me feel like a complete dimwit. But yeah, they're just very nice. And so I thought I should, you know, put my money where my mouth is and, well, get the membership and do the certificate. So I turned up at a model helicopter club who seems to have slightly diminished members these days, and did the test, which is mainly theory, not as much flying as I was worried about the flying part, but actually most of it is memorizing the safety procedures, which are all publicly available. I was able to search in Google and find a PDF with all the details, and so I just committed these to memory, which is, you know, like a couple of paragraphs from the BMFA handbook, and some other notes. There's like a sweet mnemonic that they have, like kind of it's sun, wind, emergencies, environment, transmitter, or something like that. And you just got to kind of reel off these things, and you find out a bit about the model flying club you're flying at. You memorize the heights that you can fly to and the area, and you reel off those details, and then get into the actual flying. So I think I should preface that by saying I find it very easy to memorize things because my job is largely memorizing obscure electronics and programming facts, which I'm quite good at. But that would probably, I think, that's the toughest bit of it. If you can do that, then I think you really don't need to worry a lot about the flying, because if you've been flying quads for more than a couple of years, I think you probably have it covered. And I've got one of the trial runs that I did. I should hasten to add, not the final run, because I've been warned that if I were to show that, then the internet and their mum would come and start complaining about it and pointing out the things I did wrong. So this is a trial run that I did. So that's just this is the type of maneuvers what you would have to do, and this is done on Walk Snail. So that's my DVR. You're going to take off. You've got to go through a gate, and when you've gone through a gate, then the examiner will tell you what to do next. After that, it was to fly through a slalom. The slalom gates are 5 meters apart approximately. You have to fly through them smoothly, la-di-da-di-da, turn around. The turning around bit was optional, but anyway. Then after that, you have to fly through a gate and through another. Between each of these, I'm pausing because the examiner is actually telling me what I have to do. So I'm lining up now to fly through the gate and go through. Yeah, this is just the trial run. So through the second gate, there we are, 2 gates in a row. This boy's clearly a winner. His natural skill is evident for all to see. And then after this, we have to do through an obstacle, over another obstacle, and under another. So we do 3 gates in a row, under the first, over the second, under the third. Then we hang around and wait for the examiner to tell us what to do. He wants us to do a little turn and go back through something. So we turn and go back through something. If you're feeling fancy, you can do a split S. I was hoping that I wouldn't bounce off the ground, and so I chose not to do a split S. I just did a little snappy yaw turn. And you have to do the turn in an amount of space and then land without rolling more than half a meter. That is a crucial part of it. So that's pretty much it, apart from parroting a lot of rules and regulations, which you must do correctly. And, don't fly with metal props. That curious BMFA rule of you shall not drop things from your aircraft which might cause damage to persons or property. I mean, interpret that as you will. But this type of question, you've got to memorize those, because you're going to be given 5 fixed questions, and then a couple of them at the examiner's discretion. They can pick from anything in the BMFA handbook. So yeah, fairly straightforward. I'd encourage people to give it a go. A couple of years ago would have thought myself completely incapable of this, and I just chanced it, and I was fully expecting to fail. But it looks like I'm just waiting for the admin to go through at this point.
Give you a nice certificate. So previously, the BMFA, when they were talking about quads, wanted you to do everything line of sight still. So clearly, you could fly FPV.
That is the clincher. That's why I decided to do it, because they finally announced an FPV cert, and I thought, well, because I'd been giving them grief about, it's only line of sight. What good is that? I'm never going to want to fly line of sight for more than, maybe I'll do a test hover to make sure everything works, and that's about it,
So that gets you the ability to fly at any FMA club?
I honestly don't know what that gets me. I was mainly doing it just to try and show willing, to be perfectly honest, and to try it out and to see whether I could get one of these. I don't know the use. I guess it would certainly allow me to compete at race events, if they're organized by the BMFA. I don't know what the requirements are. Oh, I should point out that you have to show that failsafe is working as well. Which goes without saying, pretty much every event you go to, you need to prove that failsafe is working.
This is true.
Yeah.
Interesting. So how much is a BFMA membership these days? Because obviously it's BFMA membership, but essentially you join a club, don't you? Or you have
I haven't joined a club, no. So normally you do it as part of a club membership, but I haven't crucially not joined a club. I was already a member of FPV UK, and I initially said, look, I've got insurance, because the guy said, oh, you have insurance, of course, because you're a BMFA member. I was like, no, I've got insurance though. And I said, no, you need to be a BMFA member to do the BMFA cert. So I went ahead and did that, but I should have bought the British drone something, which means you just, if you buy the British drone membership, it starts from the point when you buy it, and it runs 12 months from that point. Whereas the BMFA membership, for reasons lost in arcane history, is per calendar year, and therefore I bought half a year's membership for the cost of a whole year. It costs 42 quid. So it's not that much. 42 quid for BMFA membership. That's if you're a senior, which is anyone that isn't a teenager or over, I think.
Nice.
Yeah.
I guess I'd be interested to know what you can do with it. And I suppose one of the questions would have been, presumably, if you're flying at a club, you need a spotter still, do you? Or is it primarily for racing?
Yes, I need. Oh, that's the other thing. I did need a competent observer. So, because I was not racing in a sterile environment, whatever they call it, a race thing, I needed a competent observer.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Was that the examiner in that case?
That was my wife in this case,
oh.
who came along and was competently observing me and shouting if anyone was to turn up. Just seeing if I can find out details of what the point is here. Basic standard of safety and flying competence. There you are. So I'm not sure what it gets you beyond the basic standard of safety and flying competence. The basic proficiency certificates provide a measure of competence for pilots operating fixed and rotary wing aircraft fitted with stabilization technologies. An FPV extension is also available to holders of any basic proficiency or A certificate. That's clearly out of date, so yeah, unsurprisingly. Because there's not an FPV extension, I just did the FPV racing A cert because people don't do line of sight multi-rotor racing for reasons that will become immediately apparent to anyone that's seen multi-rotor racing.
I feel that might be interesting because there'll be like 8 people there saying, did I go through the gate? I can't tell from this angle.
The one thing I did notice is that immediately after taking this certificate that so BMFA doesn't seem to be aware that there is an FPV racing cert, and you have to kind of get in touch with people who know about it. And inquiring directly to BMFA headquarters, I got a number of confused responses like, you can go and take this at any club. And I asked club people and they're like, we don't, there isn't an FPV. You can't do FPV multi-rotor. And they just had no idea it existed. So I ended up, Andrew/Frank very kindly put me in touch with someone who was definitely in the know and a very, very competent and helpful guy who was able to act as examiner. So thank you very much, Dave, for doing that.
I guess it might not be any club because the clubs sort of operate all under their own conditions, don't they? I'm sure there's many.
A lot of them are very much unaware that multi-rotors are in any way part of the BMFA, it appears. But some of them obviously know what's going on because they hold races. So you just got to find the right people, I think, is the takeaway. And once you find the right person, it's a great path and fairly straightforward. And probably what would have been sensible is to go to a race club and start racing, and then I would have obviously had those introductions made. But because I wasn't actually doing racing, I just thought I'd start off and do the cert without having any prior racing knowledge. As viewers no doubt realized from our introduction to Conage episode a while ago, I have no clue what's going on, and found the description of cone layouts and indicating where one should turn or go over and under things incredibly confusing that I had not done racing before. But I was able to follow basic instruction and not hit things, which was the important part here, as well as displaying common sense and following the rules and being able to repeat them back.
It does mostly sound like common sense, the safety stuff, doesn't it? I like the idea of don't use metal props. It's like, wait, now I want to fly.
Like, this is a yes and no question. What do we think the question might be? Should it be a flying death blender? Flying death blenders are kind of cool. Like sanity check.
I mean,
no.
That's kind of how they make the helicopters, isn't it? They're definitely like, we attach 2 samurai swords to this thing and we can tilt them to make it go up and down.
Yeah, when the wing speed is that fast, it doesn't really matter if they're made of cardboard or not, does it? It's going to hurt. It's going to be nasty.
Yeah, that's definitely going to leave a mark.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
Yeah, in fact, this was a helicopter club where I did that, which I guess means it's more kind of open to multi-rotors. And they had all the flags in the shed, so I'm guessing that they weren't doing heli racing. Is heli racing a thing? I'd imagine, given the time to repair an average heli when it crashes, that it's probably not a thing.
No, nobody flies FPV on helis, and nobody takes them under gates. They're too busy doing those insane physics denying.
Away from any obstacle. They're happy with the ground and the air, but no other trees or gates or anything, please. Just nothing.
Or they're super scale. Big turbine things that cost a fortune but sound very cool.
Yeah, and they'll be flown 300 foot off the deck very slowly in circles.
Yes, looking very scale.
Yeah, the scale flying thing does. It amuses me.
I think it can look very, very nice. I think scale planes look really lovely in the air. The old sort of World War I, World War II.
Yeah. I just find it faintly comical, I guess, because it's like, is it a small plane close up or is it a big plane far away? It just instantly reminds me of Father Ted.
I mean, I suppose it's slightly, with scale comes less bumpiness, I guess, as opposed to sort of your little foamy sort of lumping around in the wind.
Yeah.
How is your plane adventure going since the first?
I don't really enjoy flying planes. When I've got space to do it, I'll drag it out and give it another go. But You know how I said I can't fly the 5-inch much because there's not enough space. Well, guess how
Even
often
less
I'm
space for
able
a
to
plane,
fly
yeah.
a wing, even less. Yeah, so I'll give it a go when I can. But right now, like I was out the other day flying that 03 when it was incredibly windy, and I was tuning it and like cranking the P gains and everything and D gains and flying that in very, very windy weather. And I can't fly a plane in anything but the calmest of calm, especially with like 1106 motors and a 40 centimeter wingspan. Like that's not going to be tolerant of any wind. So
that is quite small.
we shall see. We shall see. I got it just because I thought it might be a laugh, but I've tried to fly planes before. Like I think I had a Hubsan Spyhawk, and it spent so much time bouncing off the ground. I'm not optimistic about being able to fly planes. What about yourself?
I like planes.
You've got lots of space.
Well, yes. I mean, there is the weather problem of like if it's too windy, it's not as much fun. But even when it is a bit windy, as soon as you get in the air, you can just sort of ride it around a little bit. So that's not so bad. As I said, I've still got my other walk snail that I want to install in one of my little wings, which is a wing I fly a lot actually, because the wings just come off and sort of attach back, and you can carry it around anywhere. So cool. For a long time I've had a flight controller ready to put iNav on it, and now I've got this walk snail. I should really crack on and get that done. I'm still in the midst of office reorganization. The space behind me is ready to get more shelving. And
it looks like you might at any minute spin around and bang out a tune on the piano.
Yeah, or not.
Or not.
Or not, no. We don't play very well, but we give it a bang.
I think we should have an intro where you're just facing the other way, looking back over your shoulder.
I can MIDI up and fake it.
Look. Get the elbows moving, be fine. So what's your favourite wing then, or plane, or what's favourite?
I've probably got two favourites, I think. I've got the I've already now forgotten what it's called, Dementia setting. What is
Dementia?
Hang on, I'm going to have to look up my own.
Is it a Drac?
No, they're far too expensive. I think that's Caroline. It is the Jesus Christ. Hang on.
The Jesus Christ.
What's it called? This is it. I'm now looking at my own videos, and I've typed in wing, hoping
Jesus Christ wasn't very aerodynamic, although he did have a reputation for flying.
He's surprised once he gets his arms stretched out.
Oh yeah, really catches the currents on the robe.
Well, come on, where is it? It's think. My thinking's not going very well.
All I can think of is a flying Jesus wing now, and how you could make a plane look like Jesus.
You can do. Have you not seen those planes where they make them look like people, and they sort of make the? Yes. Hang on. Now I'm going to have
head on the front. Now you need to show me.
With a head on the front. Hang on. Let's have a look. What do we got? Let's see if I can find one. Hang on, we got something. Right, let's take this over here.
Enhance.
Present. Share screen.
Okay. Oh wow, it looks like someone throwing a dummy through the air.
Yeah.
हेलो दोस्तों, वेलकम टू आरती फ्लाइंग। और दोस्तों, आज की इस वीडियो में हम बना
I don't know who this guy is, but he's very noisy. Hang on.
Yeah, it's very loud.
If you look here, he's literally.
It's just done like a foam cutout. Oh, I see.
Yeah, it's like a foam cutout, and then you've got.
It's like 2D with a couple of 3D spars, just to add a bit of reinforcement.
Movie bits.
Oh,
I want to see him launch it. See what that looks like.
Yeah, that looks like a challenging launch.
I mean, it's got things to hold on to. I suppose.
Where's the prop? Oh, it's under the guy's chin, is it?
Oh, there you go. His
It's got
legs.
some calf stabilizers.
They're the ones. Oh, here's the launch.
All right.
Yeah.
That's pretty amazing. It's quite convincing once it gets like 20 or 30 meters away. You don't realize it's 2D.
Oh, motor not working. How's it glide? I mean, that's not bad.
Better than a person, I would say.
That's not the worst landing I've seen. But yeah, that is, oh, he's got a cape now.
Oh,
that's fun.
That's what you need, isn't it?
It's literally Superman in the sky.
It's pretty convincing.
I reckon you can do it out of foam board, I think.
Yeah, do anything out of foam board. Just need enough power to weight ratio and you're sorted. Fantastic.
And what I still haven't found out is what my favourite wing is. My other favourite wing, which is over there, is the Mini Talon, which is a sort of a largest wing and carries quite a heavy payload.
Is that the Open HD one?
No, that's the Mini Talons are more of a traditional plane. It's a V-tail, but it's quite a substantial plane, and I fly it on like a 5200 4S, and I haven't run out of battery yet. After about 40 minutes, either it's winter and my thumbs are frozen, or I've got a bit bored because I've already explored everywhere, so I come and land it again.
What's the wingspan?
I'm going to say it's like about 4.5 by 5 feet, but it's a very deep wing, so it's got quite a lot of wing area.
5200 Mar 4S is a heck of a pack.
Yeah, you could probably double that easily, quite substantially. But that's quite a big plane, and when it comes into like glide, it needs quite a lot of space to land. So that's again, it's another plane like you were saying where you need the area. But the one that I like to fly, which I can't damn well remember. Hold on. I will get this now because I will look. It's the same make as the wing I did, or the little plane I did not too long ago. So I will just figure out what the make of that one is, and then I will get that from there. That is
thinking sounds. Curry thinking sounds. Thinking curry.
Yeah.
Biryani, the thinking curry.
I'm so wrong. Why can't I remember stuff? Can't remember nothing. Why is it not there? It's not a Bixler. No. What's the little one? Like they've got a. Oh, there we go. It is a Zode. A Zode what? We'll get it. It's not the Drift. It's the Dart. The Zode Dart.
Aha, Zode Dart. Okay, that's quite a big name. I've heard Zode, Z-O-H-D, right?
Yeah, that is a fun little wing, and I was trying to see. I've got some pictures of it, which I don't. And as I was saying, the good thing about that is, it's about this big, the body, and everything is magnetic. So you get the wings.
Aha.
And
is that the one with the carbon fiber look like a quad body? It's like a carbon fiber tube, and the wings just booped. Was that a different one?
No, that's a different one. If you look at
magnetic, does sound good, so long as I guess the magnets are not used along the lines of force that the airframe would sustain during flight.
Yeah, this is it
that
here.
Little one.
That's the little dart, and it's next to the Mini Talon. Those are my two favourite planes. And this is my friend's AXN he used to have. Everyone's first plane was an AXN.
That looks a lot like the Spyhawk that I had.
It's a bit bigger. The Spyhawk was a little,
and then I managed to sell on eBay.
Yes, as Caroline says, the Zode Dart is discontinued. Is the Dart 250G still existing, or has that gone now as well? But I can put on the little Dart a little 1300 3S and a good 25 minutes of messing around with that and going fast, and I think much longer if you were to take it easy or so that's kind of why I wanted to take this one and put the walk snail in it and a proper iNav config, because you can put it in a backpack, fold it all up, and just go out. And I think I'll use that a lot more than putting it in like a bigger plane and doing things with it.
Makes sense.
That's my fun.
I mentioned OpenHD a couple of times. Not so long ago, you were almost an OpenHD champion, you know, upgrading and upgrading. Things seem to have gone off the boil a bit now. Is it because the project has gone a bit weird, or have you just sort of found it a bit of a dead end?
Not really. I just haven't had time. I don't know if you saw the video I put out while I was in Japan, saying I'm gonna change my video content somewhat.
I saw that.
Yeah, and that's one of the things. It's like, well, I wanted to get out, fly that again, but I got sidetracked by, I've got some reviews to do.
The review cycle, yeah.
Doing the review cycle.
Got blindsided into a lot of reviews. I noticed your channel sometimes you're like quiet, and then there's just like a cluster bomb of reviews, and I'm quite almost like, ow, that must be difficult being Curry. Like suddenly you've got 10 different manufacturers saying review my thing all at once.
Yeah, surprisingly, since I launched that video, I've had nothing but emails from people saying, please test this, please test this, please test this. And to be fair, some of them, it's like, well, that could be quite interesting. I should have a look at that, or that might be helpful. So I'll have a look at that. One of which is sitting here on the desk, which I haven't looked at yet, which is purely a me thing. It's just like a wireless mic and transmitter, which I thought, oh, that'll save me some time, because I can have that instead of screwing in my big mic and stuff. But like other people like SNT, who make those tiny little cars, just sort of sent me 3 while I was away, and then emailed me to say, we've sent you 3 more cars. It's like, I've got like a shelf full of 12 cars of those right now. I'll just have a look at another 3.
Walk snail car when?
Yeah, walk snail car would be fun. But yeah, so I've still got a bit of a drudge of review stuff to get through, some of which do look quite good. And that, like, there's a new Radio Master thing, so I thought I'll look at that because I like the Radio Master stuff. But yeah, then I want to get on with some stuff like doing the follow-ups.
You had a lot of kind of, I guess you were just being sort of scattergunned, lots of different things that were arriving. I heard you reviewing in the past saying you had to kind of say no, and you were getting things you didn't really want to review, and it sounded like you want to do the reviews for the fun of reviewing the thing. It's not a career choice to be a reviewer. It's something you're doing because it's fun to review stuff.
Yeah, I mean that's the big battle with myself. It's like somebody says, oh, we can give you this thing for free if you make a video about it, and it's like, oh, that looks quite interesting. I'm sort of interested in it for myself, not because I think it's like, oh, this is gonna cause me to earn lots of money from people buying them. Because
you don't want to be part of the crowd, part of the kind of 7 or 8 people who, when some big tech item comes out, all drop their review in the same 30 minutes the day that the embargo finishes, because you're not really adding anything, are you, at that point?
No, I'm just a small cog in the wheel. But yeah, I kind of think if something's interesting and fun, then I'll take a look at it. But I would much prefer to have stuff that make me have some sort of weird adventure or some sort of discovery into doing it. Like I really liked looking at those Radio Master PWM receivers, because I got to try and sort of retrofit them into a bunch of wings, and then tried flying them and stuff, and had little disasters with that. And then the new little unlimited range 4G FPV system, which is going to go in a car. I thought, that looks fun. Yeah. Although I'm kind of worried about my car getting stolen.
When you look back over all the reviews you've done in the past, got this litany of products going back for years. What do you think stood out as being like the most fun things to review that you personally kind of like got the most out of?
Interesting. I mean, I've kind of liked really like outstandingly good ready to fly quads, because Although, like people have mentioned that it's really funny when you get a crappy product.
But that 1 in
sort of watch
20
me
that arrived that
struggle.
year, and you just went, wow.
Yeah, stuff like the Holy Bro quads, which are very good. These are the Coppice ones. They just all flew brilliantly, and the Immersion RC Mojo 230, which was like that was amazing out of the box because that was so far ahead of its time. Nobody was doing anything like that. So it had 2 F3 boards in it, one of which was the regular flight controller, the other which was their own software with their own OSD. It had their own connection to the camera. Do you remember with the CCD cameras, you'd often have, I mean, you get this with CMOS now, you get like a little menu board and you can go through stuff.
Yeah.
That, like way ahead of its time, had a connection. So from the menu, you could go into the camera menu and change things there. And you could tell it which way the motors were spinning and they'd correct themselves. And there's like motor diagnosis tool that it would measure the RPM. This is let me get it. It's the Mojo 230 it's called.
Oh, Immersion RC.
The Immersion RC one, yeah. It's not 5 minutes.
Wasn't that like a big plastic frame? I still remember it was like brightly coloured, so I assumed it had plastic parts on it. Might be back from a time when quads were of a different type of build. Oh no, it looks like a relative. Is that coloured arms or are those plastic arms?
Yeah, so you got normal carbony bits here, plastic protectors under there,
all the way down.
And so it came sort of as is, and all you had to do is open this up, plop in a receiver. This is some XSR or something with the things hanging out.
Those giant mushroom antennas, and still in one piece. Most of those got
this is the old Immersion RC antenna as well, and yeah, it's a CCD camera, but at the time, spot on. And this, the thing about it, which I quite like about Immersion RC is, and you often get things that just don't get tested.
V1S props as well.
So like recently it was like Beta FPV. It's like you receive their ERS module and you're like, how do you update this? Because I plug something in and it doesn't work. How have you tested this? Which they can't have done. Which with this thing, they sort of tested it. They gave it to like some pro pilots and said, test this for us and tune it to your liking. And then once they had it sorted and they did all the changes, they put the tunes on. So this has got the tune on from who is he? Jesus, my memory. Somebody who's really good. And so that was the difference. Yeah, it's gone. I can remember some Japanese, but most English words
That's
have gone.
all you need, mate. Just remember what the tasty things are. Let the rest go.
Thingy, Chad Nowak.
Right.
Something Fly Oz. I don't know. Sorry, Chad. So his tune's on there, and that was the difference to me about seeing a quad that's perfectly tuned, and I mean absolutely smooth as you like, versus one of my tunings. So that's a great quad. That was actually that was sent by Magazine Review. That one.
Wow. That kind of dates it, doesn't it? Like
back when magazines existed,
when you could actually get enough of a circulation with a paper publication about a niche hobby.
Yes,
that's incredible.
I think I wrote for 5 magazines in all, and 3 of them are out of production. 1 I had to take to small claims court to get them to pay me.
Oh my word!
And the other one is, it won't be going too long because I published an article there about, it was kind of about like old school traditional pilots flying fixed wing versus quads for one of the mini air show things. And in their same issue, they had a readership survey, the results of it. And like the average age of the reader was like 71. So it's like, okay,
they're all gone now.
These guys aren't going to go on for that much longer. At which case, the magazine doesn't have an audience anymore.
Yeah. So. Like when I'm in an airport and things, I look at magazine racks, think, oh, I'll get something for the flight, and yeah, it's It's like, unless you're doing generic lifestyle tips or photographs of the rich and famous, like the broadest, most vague categories, there's just no room in the market for magazines anymore. It's kind of nuts.
Magazines just don't have an existence.
Yeah, go read a book
which
instead.
Is kind of a shame.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
in many ways, personal websites have kind of gone. Like a lot of people who used to have their own sites think Oscar Lang is the kind of exception where he's still putting out quality content. But a lot of the sites that I used to read for quadcopter content, they've just kind of vanished or they've stopped being updated. You look and the last post is like 2019 or something. It's all just become, you know, YOLO something out on Instagram or Facebook, put some like weird portrait video out. Another thing I hate. That's the thing that gets me. I'm a generation that just cannot abide portrait video. I'm just like, you're doing it wrong. You're doing it wrong. Doing it wrong. Like
agree.
our eyes are not on top of each other. Stop it. Yeah, unless you're doing that, I think you just can't get the eyeballs anymore, unfortunately.
No, it is a different game. But yeah. So my future will hopefully involve some more interesting projects, or as I said, more sort of longer to produce videos, because despite as I said, despite reviews looking like they're clunked together in 5 minutes, they do take bloody ages.
Oh yeah,
there's all the filming and messing around and editing and wondering if that works and going back to the manufacturer and saying, hey, this didn't work. It's like I've got from months ago a robot kit, because I was quite, you know, passionate about like the STEM stuff, and I actually had like proper like competitions and stuff. So I built their robot, and then at the moment it's probably been 30 hours of video, because I had to build like 5 variations of this robot and get it to do things. And then so for the last one, I thought I'd design something really complicated, use all the sensors, use all the motors, and then have it drive around this course and use the sensors to try and work out where barrels are and pick them up and take them back and put them down. So very
that's a lot of
like
work.
let's do this. I figured it out. I think that'd be okay. I can crack this out. And I've made the board brown out essentially. And so I was in touch with these guys, and I had to do this test. I was like, look, see, it's gone wrong. And it's like, it's a combination of having the gyro sensor, another sensor, putting a certain motor under pressure makes it go bad. And they've come up with, we think it's you using regular alkaline batteries. We think it's browning out and causing the board to crash, and then the motor's getting stuck on. And they said, we're going to send you one of our lithium ion packs, which will hold up, and it's going to fix the problem. So while I was away, they said, oh, have you got it yet? Is it working? I said, oh, I haven't got it yet. Did you send it? They said, yeah, it should be there by now. So when I got home, it wasn't here. So I said, hey, it wasn't here. Do you have like a tracking number or anything so we can check it? And they said, yes, we do. I said, it got delivered. I was like, I checked the tracking number. And what there was as proof of delivery was a photo of my open recycling bin. So they'd taken the package, delivered it to the recycling bin, and then they didn't put a note through the door to say, we've put the package in your recycling bin. So the day after, my battery went into the recycling.
I've
which
had
is
this
possibly
once,
the worst
and I was
thing.
horrified. I like called up customer service for the company in question and screamed at them bad. Like, in no world does putting a package in a bin count as safely delivering. Like, the one purpose of that receptacle is to dispose of things. In what world do you think that is a safe destination? You might as well just leave it in plain sight and hope someone nicks it, because putting it in a bin, like 1 day in 7, it's going to be immediately disposed of. Like, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, it wouldn't have been so bad if they put a note through the door saying, we have put your delivery in the recycling bin. But because they didn't, my mother-in-law, who was staying in the house, didn't think like to randomly check bins, and they didn't send me the tracking, so I couldn't. It's not like I got tracking updates to say we have delivered it, and then I could look at the photo and say, quick, get it out of the bin. It's just like, we have randomly hidden it around your property. It'll be disposed of if you don't find it in a day.
This is like Yodel, who decided that they deliver our pet food and that the best place to leave it was the end of our path on the pavement. And so we got back to find that box had been torn open and like savaged by passing dogs. Like they didn't even bother to carry it up the path. They just dumped it on the street and walked off. Just awful. Just awful.
Yes, it's very strange. I've had really high value items just left outside, and this battery, they decided like this might get stolen. We'll put it in the bin.
On a more positive and drone related thing, this is the video I got of the O3 in a very, very windy day, and I had better luck with gyro flow than you did, and managed to get this out of it. I don't know if you can see, but the trees are going quite considerably side to side, and I managed to get this bit of footage out of it with gyro flow on default settings from the O3. I was pretty pleased with that. Yeah. Trees are bouncing around. It's a bit funny, like when I pitch, it does that kind of funny zooming thing because it doesn't want to let me do that. But yeah, I was incredibly impressed. I thought, wow, it felt like it had finally arrived at this point. I'm not the biggest fan of the way it does light and dark. It looks to me like it never wants to overexpose, but it'll quite happily like turn a lot of the picture into jet black, which I don't know if it's just my eyes, but something about seeing jet black just irks me. I like to see the detail in the dark parts of the screen. I don't know if you find that, but it irks me for some reason. And I've had camera people say, "Oh, it's better they don't blow out the bright areas." And yeah, that's good because when it's blown out, you can't get any more detail. But if they leave the dark areas as jet black, that's just the opposite side of the same coin, which is that you can't pull anything out of those blacks if they're just black. There's no information there.
It needs to be adjusted in some way so you're seeing the right detail in both ends of it.
I gave it a small bump on the EV, like plus 0.3, and I might just try and bump the EV some more, but I'm not sure if I'm ever going to be completely happy. Like that compared to the walk snail, in similar conditions, the walk snail doesn't overexpose the sky, but it gives me more detail in the dark areas. So it feels like I'm kind of getting the best of both worlds with walk snail. Whereas with the O3, it feels like the dark areas stay very dark. I don't know. Maybe I'm not enough of a camera snob, and if I was, I'd think that's the better way to have it because you're making the compromise in the right direction. I'm not too sure.
Well, I think the problem is we're often getting dark areas because we fly generally close to the floor. So if you're going to have something that's getting the exposure, you want it down there. It doesn't matter so much if the sky is blown out because you don't need to look at detail there, do you?
Yeah.
It's not like I'm flying under
That's
a tree.
the FPV pilot's eye and not the photographer's eye, I guess. Maybe if you're a photographer, you consider the entire picture and not just the parts that you want to actually fly into. Whereas, you know, as an FPV pilot, you're like, if I'm going to be flying there, I want to see everything there. And the sky is just the sky, whether it's blown out or not blown out. You're pretty sure unless there's a black dot in it, you're good to fly there.
I tend to think so. Yeah. Yes. Oh, hey,
Anywho,
we've been going for over an hour.
We've been going for over an hour, so probably an appropriate time to call it. Sorry, I haven't been paying attention to the chat. I've been distracted, I guess, from that. But thank you for everyone in the chat. Hello, Caroline. Hello, Shady. And Hydra, I think, was there as well. And Style Sucks. Ayo. Thank you for your awesome work on Blue Jay. We should put out a note that Style Sucks and Daniel Mascara have done some fantastic work on Blue Jay, and they just put out a release this week for the long awaited for 0.20 version of Blue Jay that fixes a whole bunch of problems and gives you some safety checks and things as well. So if you are running a BL Heli S ESC and haven't updated, now is the time to use Blue Jay. And if you're using an older version of Blue Jay, please update. So yeah, little tip for everyone out there, go check it out. And you can use this guy's awesome website to do it as well. ESC-configurator, ESC-configurator.com. Any Chrome-based browser, so that's Edge, Chromium, or Vivaldi, any one of the bajillion Chromium offshoots will work. And you can even use that on mobile devices, I think, on Android at least. So, yeah, give it a go. Nice and easy upgrade, and it will help because then you can use RPM filtering and even EDT safety arming as well, which will make sure you can't accidentally spin your props in your hand, which everyone wants. Some mobile devices, Android mobile devices that play nicely. Yeah, it's mobile devices are a bit of a crapshoot, but
nothing's going to work on an Apple thing. Nothing
works on Apple. No, that's the 3D mode as well. Now you can do sustained and inverted flight as well, where it was a little bit wonky and would look like a desync before. So well done, guys. Just an excellent thing, and keeping a lot of older quads in the air with up-to-date features. So I think that's fantastic. Thanks. And with that, and a huge thank you to our list of amazing patrons that are scrolling at the bottom of the screen, we will bid you adieu. Thank you from the wonderful Curry Kitten.
Goodbye. Thank you for the moustache, Stephen.
Cheers. Have a good week. Catch you later, everyone. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.